Well, the big news seems to be that there has been a new pope selected. So we'll see if other folks join and what they've got to say about this. But yes, there's an American pope that has been selected, and a lot of people thought that that was a very much of a long shot of the possibility of an American pope being selected. But that is the case. Pope Leo is the American pope. Apparently, he comes from the area of Chicago and is a Villanova graduate and all along those lines. So that's some of the news that is coming out of the world in terms of politics and religion and all along those lines. So that is something that it was just announced recently. So we'll see if folks have reactions to that and what their reactions might be that we have an American pope. President Trump is saying that he is looking forward to meeting the Pope. Even the new Pope, had been critical of both him and Vance in past statements that he had made, including on social media. So apparently, this is a modern Pope that is going to be using social media and all along those lines. So this is definitely a different era and a different time. So we'll see what folks have to say about that, since that is something that is in the news as we have a new pope that has been selected. So we'll see if other folks join us, or this is an abbreviated version of world politics and all along those lines. But definitely just wanted to get folks know that we do have a new pope in the house and all in that kind of way. So we'll see if folks have reactions to that, or maybe they'll have reactions on it tomorrow when we do World Edition. But there is a new pope that is here in the house and all along those lines. So we do have a new pope that has been put into office, and we'll see how folks react to this from both here on Pod TV and in the world and around the world and all along those lines. And of course, there's still the conflict going on in Pakistan, with between Pakistan and India. And of course, there's still the conflict going on in Israel between Israel and various folks. And of course, we still got the situation in Ukraine. So we'll see what the Pope has to say about these world situations as well. So if you got some comments, or if you got some thoughts around the new Pope, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know your thoughts on this new development in the world of religion and the world of politics and all along those lines. So always glad to hear from our listeners and to hear what they've got to say about a number of these conversation points that are in there. And we'll see, maybe Nick's going to go and make a trip to Rome, since he's already over there in Spain, and Spain and Italy aren't that far apart. I mean, even though they are separate countries and there is some distance between them, there is not going to stop maybe Nick from making a run over there. We'll see if that's going to be on his plans or not on his plans, and all along those lines. But it'll be interesting to see the reaction of folks as this situation continues to develop. But yes, the white smoke did come out, and we do have a new pope that is in place and all along those lines. So that is something that is in the news that folks are talking about and that folks are paying attention to in that sense. So we'll definitely see what folks' reactions is to the newly appointed pope and what they think will be coming down in terms of their philosophy and in terms of what they'll be doing in terms of trying to make the world a better place. As many of the popes have tried to deal with things ranging from poverty to a number of other issues as well. So definitely there's a large Catholic population in Latin America. So I know the Pope had some thoughts, this new Pope, about our immigration policy, in the American immigration policy, and all along those lines. So that's something that's going on in the world. So we'll see what other folks have to say about that. And if folks decide to join in the conversation and let us know their thoughts about this new development with the Pope having been picked and all in that way. So that is something that is there and that folks are talking about as well. So we'll see if folks have a reaction to this new Pope coming into office and all along those lines. So it's always interesting when we have folks that are got thoughts, and we'll see what these folks are thoughts are in that sense. So that's something that's going on in the world that folks are talking about is the selection of the new pope in this area. So, like I said, we're going to continue the conversation. We'll see if others join us and what their thoughts are about the new pope that has been picked and all along those lines. But that is what folks are definitely talking about and thinking about, the fact that we have a new pope in place. And we'll see what folks' reactions are around the world to this new situation, and also what the Pope's thoughts are around world issues, whether it's climate change, whether it's war, whether it's a number of other things that, as the representative of the Catholic Church, he will be thinking about and making decrees on, and all along those lines. So it should be interesting to see folks' reactions to this part of the world and what is going on in that sense. So, like I said, that is something that was just recently announced, and we'll see if folks have other thoughts about it, and if folks are going to be joining us and seeing their thoughts about this as well. So, like I said, that is the latest news and all in that space. So, we'll definitely see what folks' are thoughts around this are, and all in that way. So, a lot of things going on in that space, and we'll see how folks are reacting to that and what folks' thoughts are in that sense. So, like I said, this is the latest development coming out of the world and all in that space. So, we'll definitely be hearing people talking about this for several days as folks are trying to deal with what is going on in that sense and their thoughts around it and all along those lines. I'll play a commercial from our fine folks over at National Pensions. We'll be right back with more world politics, but we'll see what else is going on as well. But let's check this out from National Pensions.
Welcome to National Pension Partners, where retirement planning meets peace of mind. Today, we're diving into the 412E3 plan, also known as a fully insured pension plan. This isn't just any retirement plan. It's the gold standard for stability and guaranteed benefits. How does it work? Simple. It's funded exclusively by life insurance and annuity contracts. This means no market risks, no actuarial assumptions, just ironclad guarantees. Think of it like this. You're a small business owner who hates surprises. The 412E3 plan gives you predictable, stable contributions every year. Your future benefits are backed by insurance contracts, so you know exactly what you're getting. No guesswork, no headaches. But there's more. These plans are designed to maximize your contributions and offer significant tax advantages. And with National Pension Partners, you're not just getting a plan, you're getting a team of experts, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, all dedicated to making your retirement as secure as possible. We provide personalized consulting, ensuring that your plan is tailored to your specific needs. Best part, initial consultations and proposals are absolutely free. $0, zero commitment. So if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. With the 412E3 plan, your future is in safe hands. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. Perfect for small business owners who like their finances as predictable as Monday mornings. Stable contributions, ironclad guarantees, and serious tax advantages. It's the trifecta of financial security. And with National Pension Partners, you get a team of brainiacs, attorneys, CPAs, actuaries, ensuring your retirement is as secure as Fort Knox. Oh, did we mention the free consultations? That's right. You get a personalized expert proposal with $0 down. So, if you want a retirement plan that's as reliable as your morning coffee, head over to nationalpensions.com. Because when it comes to your future, boring is the new exciting. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling. For more details, check out National Pension Partners at nationalpensions.com. Retirement planning never sounded so thrilling.
Hello. Oh, you're muted. Unmute there.
We have a new American Pope, so that's what I was just telling folks. So he's been picked, and he's got his new name, but it was Cardinal Robert Prevost has been named as the Pope, and I think that he's got Leo in his name and all along those lines now. That he's got to change his name since he's a Pope now and everything like that. Leo, Pope Leo, apparently has some Louisiana roots even. So, what is your thoughts about our new Pope?
Chicago, so people are trying to figure out whether he's a White Sox or a Cubs fan.
That's a good question because that is definitely divided over there in Chicago. Some are White Sox, some are Cubs, and it's always a dividing factor. And I saw that he is a Franciscan priest, but he is part of the Big East because he's part of Villanova. So he might even have that ties because, as I've told you before and others on this show, I graduated from a Jesuit university, and the Jesuits and the Franciscans don't always see eye to eye, but I think both of them are considered the liberal side of the Catholic religion and everything like that. But it'll be interesting because apparently he wants to follow the footsteps of Francis because they said that he had some harsh words for both Vance and Trump about their immigration policies when he was nothing but a cardinal.
He was the first pope to be on Twitter tweeting away before he was named pope. So he's got a history of retweeting tweets that are not so complimentary of Trump. He's said to be, socially liberal, but not about LGBTQ necessarily, and maybe not about abortion, but certainly about immigrants. He's liberal.
So he's got some LGBT views on the immigrants.
Yeah, he's saying don't be freaking mean to immigrants in in the tweets he's retweeted. 133, I think, cardinals voted in this round of voting. 108 of them were appointed. More than 3/4 of them were appointed by Pope Francis. So yeah, it makes sense that they would, continue to vote in the vein of Francis. Prevost, Pope Leo, is 69. In clips, he looks pretty healthy. So, I don't know. It depends on how many Chicago sausages he's put away in his time.
That's true. That is true. It depends on how many of them sausages he's got and how many he's been eating of those famous Chicago sausages. But yeah, he's 69. So, and what did Francis pass in his 80s, I believe, or something like that?
Francis made it to 88. So who knows how long this could, we don't know what his health situation is, but with medicine, we could, at some point, we're going to have a pope make it to 100, unless they retire. Like I think Benedict decided he was too old and not unhealthy enough to be pope. So for a while we had two popes. We had the active pope and then we had the retired pope. But, it's not unreasonable that we could get 20 years out of this guy.
No, that's not unreasonable at all. So maybe we'll have an active pope that'll be there for a while and all along those lines. Is it possible that we may have, because I know it's one of you and Toby's favorite topics, an AI pope after a while? So maybe we'll have a pope that is nothing but strictly AI at some point. Or
nothing but AI, but I think at some point people who are in their 80s and maybe losing mental sharpness might get some kind of chip pacemaker put in their head. Michael J. Fox has a pacemaker in his head to help him fight Parkinson's. And I believe in the future people will have all sorts of hardware in their heads to help them think more clearly in old age. So yeah, we could have a pope that, I think what we need now, we've had White House down. There's a movie with, I think, Viola Davis playing the president called G20. And we had Air Force One, where you've got a fighting president who takes on terrorists, and we haven't yet had a movie with a fighting pope, where somebody tries to take over Vatican City and it's up to the Pope and his guards to fight off the bad guys.
Hey, and apparently the Pope has some guards because they brought up the guards were there with the big crowd in Vatican City. So apparently there's like a whole royal guard, which I probably knew but had forgotten about and all along those lines. But they have like their own little royal army because I think that it's its own city and all along those lines. So the Pope's got his own situation. So that'll be interesting.
They wear crazy outfits that I think were designed by Michelangelo or something. They're like Renaissance outfits, with breeches and knee socks and hats. I don't know, is there a feather in their hat? I don't know. Anyway, they're very colorful uniforms. But I assume that no matter, their uniforms look ridiculous, but I assume they're badasses.
I assume that as well. They probably got some real bad attitudes and all along those lines, and they got some toughness with them. But that would be quite interesting to see what their attitude is and how they cope with that and everything like that. So that's interesting to see how that goes. So I'm fascinated by this to see how bad they are.
So, and it's nice to have a leader where we'll understand most of what he says.
Oh yeah, it's like, but I understand that in getting his announcement, because he's been the cardinal for a large Spanish population, that he spoke in, I think, 3 languages. So I think he spoke in English, Italian, and Spanish. So he might have done another one as well. But he definitely had a large.
I don't know how long he was down in Peru, but he served in Peru for a long, long time. And they had like one of a priest who's one of his friends saying he likes to cook for people, that when they served together in Peru, he'd make pizza for everybody in the priest house, whatever you know. So I don't know, what else do we have going on? You're frozen, so I'm just going to start saying my nonsense. Oh, Trump was at a press conference. Reporter asked, "Are you planning to meet the Pope?" Trump says, "I do. They've already called." Bullshit. The Vatican did not, reach out to, already after the Pope's been Pope for what, 2 hours, to say, yeah, let's get together. But Trump just, he pulls stuff out of his butt. His base.
He's constantly doing that.
Yeah. Let's go to Drudge and see what else we can find out. Previously known as Father Bob, because his name is Robert. So
right.
Holds dual citizenship in Peru.
Okay.
And yeah, went to Villanova. All right, what else is happening?
What's happening in India, Pakistan? I know that there's still been conflicting and everything like that, but I hadn't had a chance to check on them to see how that war is going between the two nuclear powers.
So those guys, they do this every few years. I don't know if this particular skirmish is worse than in previous years, but they've had encounters like this every 3-4 years for most of the 21st century. And Pakistan has 250 million people. India has, I don't know, close to 1.4 billion people. And they don't like each other, but they're careful to limit the extent of the fighting, because they each have nukes. They don't want it to turn into all-out war, because the 2 nuclear powers, one of them the largest country on earth, the other one the 5th largest country on earth. If it turned into a land war, it would be disastrous and really scary for the whole world. So I think they push back in measured terms. They're always fighting over Kashmir, which is a Himalayan region that has an average altitude of more than 8,000 feet above sea level, and they fight in the farthest reaches of Kashmir. Each country claims it, but they don't fight with guns. They fight with rocks and sticks and fists. So the leadership of each country doesn't let them use guns because they don't want things to escalate. So yeah, it's scary, but I hope that they back down after after gestures of aggression or retribution. After they send their messages to the opposing country, that they eventually calm down.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that they manage to calm down. That would be wonderful if they could calm down and not act crazy, because we know that sometimes they can act overly crazy and everything like that. So it'll be interesting how that.
In their past, their recent past, they show that they have limits to their craziness.
Limits to craziness is good. We like.
You see stuff like this in, with in the Mideast among, warring countries. Now, Iran and Iraq, before we went in there and took out Iraq and Hussein, those guys would have unbridled wars, full commitments of their military to destroying each other. And the U.S. kind of liked that because we didn't like Iran too much. We didn't like Iraq too much. And we liked that they would deplete their armies and their weapons, fighting at each other with full commitment. Then we took out Iraq, and that gave Iran more freedom to, exercise control over the region. But among most Middle Eastern countries, there are limits to aggression. But when countries attack Israel, it's often not with full commitment of their resources, because they know Israel has the army and the weapons to completely wipe out the opposing countries. Which it hasn't
definitely
been
know that.
With Gaza, Israel has, entered Gaza with full commitment, which has obviously been terrible for Gaza. With now 50,000 dead out of a population of 2.3 million, which is more than 2% of people, which is, if 2% of America, it's the equivalent of 7 million Americans being killed proportionally.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of Americans being killed and everything like that. I know they've been trying to figure out what they can do about that situation, as well as the situation in Ukraine and Russia. So all of these situations seem to be getting worse. So I know that that'll be something that will be on the Pope's agenda, is trying to figure out his role, and I guess trying to make it a more peaceful world and a more religious world, or whatever that might be looking like. But definitely, I think that it'll be interesting to see which way he goes, because he said he might be more of a moderate, because he's liberal on immigration, but not that liberal on LGBTQIA rights and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see which direction he goes in, and whether he has that meeting with the Pope. I mean, not with the Pope, with a President Trump, and all along those lines.
I mean, we really don't know where he's gonna be on all these issues, because a lot of it, I mean, we were literally reading smoke signals a couple hours ago, and so we're trying to figure out what he's all about based on limited information, and over time he'll more fully state his positions.
Yeah, he'll state his positions, and we'll learn what those positions are and where he truly stands, and then folks can make their own judgments on him based on those positions. But it'll be fascinating to see which way he goes and everything like that. What else is happening in the world of AI? I know that you and Jacoby are big into AI, so is there any big new AI news that's in the world?
A couple days ago, Twitter was on fire with articles and people talking about how we might be raising a generation of kids who don't know how to do a bunch of stuff that older people know how to do, like write coherent paragraphs or do math, because high school students and college students are turning to AI more and more to do their work for them. And you can say, well, that's terrible, we're raising a bunch of useless dipshits. Or you can say, some people, the alternate argument is that, that 120 years ago, we went from horsepower to machine power, and, people don't need to be able to, lift 250-pound sacks of grain on their shoulders and walk around with them, because we have machines to do that. And maybe people don't need all the skills that they had needed in the 1980s, because we got AI to do that. So, time, it's probably a little of both. We know we're more distractible. I personally am distractible as hell. I used to read, 200 books a year. Now I get through I don't know, 15 books a year, because there's always Twitter to check, and Drudge to check, and eBay to check. So I mean, so the jobs, the way humanity is and will be is changing, faster than ever. I mean, you look back in the 1200s, maybe you're a shoemaker, maybe you're working on a cathedral, you're a stonemason. Well, your dad did that, you're doing it, your kids are going to do that, your grandkids. The job of building this cathedral, it might take 150 years. People will always need shoes. Your family's known for being good shoemakers. Well, life didn't change. Now, life, we've had several generations of technology within a single lifetime. Before 2008, we didn't have smartphones. Now smartphones dominate our lives. We didn't have Google till 2005. Now we turn to Google all the frickin' time. So the change is accelerating, and we're getting our asses kicked. And the people who will thrive will be the people who can work most effectively with AI.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense, but it'll be interesting to see how that all works out and if it's really good or not good or anything like that. So do you think that we'll have restaurants that are strictly AI in the very near future, and we won't have the waitresses and the waiters and folks like that? So it'll just be strictly AI employees and everything along those lines?
It'll be a mix. Like I've been to robotic restaurants, and they don't work very well now. Well, you go to Kuru. There's a chain of sushi revolving sushi restaurants called Kura across the U.S. And the sushi goes by you on a conveyor belt, and you grab what you want, and then a little robot brings your table water. And it's fine. But they also have a wait staff to help with anything. And that place is decent. And do they save on labor costs? I don't know. Or is it a gimmick? At this point, it's probably more a gimmick. But in the future, yeah, you'll get more and more automated aspects. Grocery stores, I'm sure, save on labor costs with self-checkout. And we'll see an incursion of more and more AI mediated, work helpers, and we'll work it out. We'll see, and places with a more than usual amount of AI, robotics and all that will be gimmicks. All right, let's look at Drudge, because it's just my head up here right now. Drudge used to be very right-leaning, but I don't know, 6 years ago it went centrist, where it's a decent news aggregator now. So Trump has been talking about this deal that he made with the UK over trade and tariffs, though it's not really a deal. It's the idea or a plan for a deal. It doesn't have any specific terms yet, and right now it's tariffs with the UK are remaining at 10%.
Oh wow! So that's what the deal is. Is it's a deal that's no deal? I'm confused now.
It's a deal to make a deal. It's no deal yet. And then people are talking about that there might be a rollback on the China tariffs based on a plan for a deal where we'll roll back tariffs from 145% to 54%.
So another deal that's no deal.
Yeah, right. So like people I saw in the news yesterday, the average cost of an American car, a new car, before the tariff thing happened, was $48,000. I don't know about you, but we've never paid anywhere close to that for a car. I think the most we ever paid for a car was 29, maybe.
Right.
And that turned out to be a mistake. We bought a Volvo because our kid was school age and my wife was going to be driving her and her friends around, and we wanted a super safe car. And for a while, Ford owned the Volvo Corporation. Mm-hmm. And during that period, Volvos got crappy. Our Volvo was not great. I guess they're probably back to being decent again. I don't know that Ford owns them anymore, but spending the most we ever spent on a car was a mistake. We're back to the last car my wife bought is a Kona, which is what, a Hyundai?
I think that's a Hyundai.
That's a nice little car. Paid, I don't know, in the low 20s for it. But anyway, they're saying that the average price of a car will go from 48 grand to 51 or 52,000 under the tariffs.
Okay, well, we'll see how that all plays out and everything. Well, like I told the audience, this was probably going to be an abbreviated version because I knew it was just going to be me and maybe just you and everything like that. So I'm going to do the 30 seconds and we'll come back with the news on tomorrow because I got to get ready to get Coco's show. And it seems like she's having some difficulties. So I got to get ready to get off and make some phone calls to see what's going on with that show. But I think we'll just do an abbreviated version today and everything. And we'll come back with a full show on tomorrow.
All right. See you in the morning.
See you in the morning.
All right, bye.